I guess the first thing I want to do is say thank you for having me this evening. You know, I was speaking with Father, and we're very, very close in age, have a lot of common denominators. I kid with my wife and people my age, and I say that I'm in the fourth quarter, hopefully not the 2-minute warning, but I'm in the fourth quarter. And you are just at the kickoff. You really are. I made a lot of notes. I had a couple people walk up and say, "What are you doing?" And it was kind of like when I was in college and you looked at the notes you were studying for the finals, you said, "What did I do? This isn't helping me, you know?" So I'm going to try to go over these things. I'm going to ad-lib. I'll give you a little background. I was told to tell you a little about me growing up, a little bit about my business, and then as much as I can about how being a Catholic in the business community affects me, how I try to project what I believe in, and I hope that I am not wasting your time this evening, that you find some value, okay? So, I guess the couple of things that are very, very critical, which tie us all together, we're all Catholics, right? I was telling this to Father, and all this will tie together towards the end here. I was listening to Catholic radio. I don't know if you listen to it or not. It comes out of New York. And there was an older nun on, and she had this fellow that was a Jewish convert to Catholicism. And he was a writer for the Seinfeld program. And they were talking about how he became a Catholic. And this nun said, "The Lord draws straight with crooked lines." The Lord draws straight with crooked lines. I mean, what does that mean? What does that mean when you're 22, 26, 20? What is that all about? Well, I think of wanting to be a commercial airline pilot, never became one, right? I think of where I grew up. I was lucky to get out of there. I just went back to my 50th class reunion. There are guys that lived in their parents' basements so they could, inherit the house. I mean, nothing changes back there, okay? You saw that Rust Belt concept. It's truly that way. And another dramatic thing happened. My wife was carrying one of our sons, and I hadn't bought in yet. I was a general sales manager. I came down with spinal meningitis and encephalitis. I don't know if you know anything about that, but it attacks your central nervous system, my brain, and everything. And I'll tell you what you do when something like that happens to you. You hide it. You got a wife, you got a kid on the way, and you're thinking this will go away. And I started getting headaches, and they were so bad that you didn't want to wake up in the morning. I went to a Catholic school, and no matter how slow you are, you learn how to spell. I couldn't spell, okay? And my memory was leaving and leaving and leaving, and I didn't know what to do. I didn't know where to turn. And finally, it hurt so bad, I didn't care if I didn't wake up in the morning, and I finally told my wife. And she's a BSN. She's a nurse. She got a 4-year degree. And she was in the Air Force, by the way. So you can ask these kids what they grew up with, okay? Anyway, I was in the hospital for about 2-3 weeks. I was off for about 4 months. When I went in the hospital, I couldn't speak. I didn't have real good control of my arms. And what do you do? What do you do? Where do you go? Had a house payment? Had another kid on the way? What do you do? Kind of a tough deal. A little scary. Well, a year later, I bought in, right? And why didn't these guys shut their cell phones off, huh? My Lord. Okay? So, I was there, and I had a nice partner, and I had a 10,000-year buyout. He would never go away. He had 2-3 stores, and I was doing all the work. And I said, "Look, man, I got to find my own." So, 29 years ago, this coming February 2nd, Olive bought Craig Chevrolet, where your dad bought a store. And Craig Chevrolet was a very, very interesting place because it's been in business for over 81 years now. Small town, wonderful people, everybody knew each other. Progress moved on. The digital world wasn't there yet, but the big dealer world was. And these guys were getting swallowed. So he built a brand new store on I-70 was 16 months old. He was going broke. It was a monster. He was used to running an 18-foot runabout, and he built an aircraft carrier. And you know, the Lord draws straight with crooked lines. I got hooked up with him. He carried my note. I bought him out in 2.5 years. So the rest is kind of history. I think the most important part of whether you're running a business, whatever you're doing, is you don't go on stage, per se, when you're running a business. Whatever your life is before you walk in there is what your life is when you're in there. Now, I want to tell you something right now. Whitney's experienced it. I'm a sinner. I work every day at trying to be a better person, and Satan's after us every day. And if you don't know that, you're in Never Never Land. Every day you have challenges, frustrations, brings out the worst in you, and you find a way to handle it and go on to the next day. And that's just part of being a human and trying to be a Christian and a Catholic. So whatever I tell you, believe me, I don't think I could have been one of the 12 guys that hung out with JC. I work real hard at what I'm doing, but I have my trials and tribulations like everybody else. I think the basics are so critically important. I learned them at St. Cyril's. One thing I want to tell you, I was convinced in the 4th grade I was going to hell. I had these nuns, and I mean, believe me, it was like out of the movies. I truly love them though, seeing Sister Mary LaSalle, Sister Mary Clement. I'll never forget them. And you know, if you touched the host with your teeth, a lot of trouble. A lot of trouble. You have no idea how bad it could have been. So I was pretty distraught, I think, between the 4th and 7th grade, you know, and you're thinking every day, am I going to get to heaven, man? This is a problem, okay? But, you know, you went to Mass on Sunday, right? You learn from your parents' fidelity in your marriage, right? You learn you have a conscience, that there's right and wrong in the world, and you do the right things, not the wrong things, whenever you can. Those are the basics, those are the foundations, okay? And when you raise your children, that's critical. Because if you're not those things, when you go to work, you can't be someone different. You're not gonna be. So, you know, when we raised our kids, I said to myself, I gotta project the right standards. I have to. Because God gave them to me and says, they're yours. You better take care of them. Because if you don't, you're gonna answer me. So every day I woke up, I said to myself, my wife and I are second now. It's all about them. You gotta give them your standards, you gotta give them your morals, and you gotta protect them from today's society. Okay? The things that we don't like in today's society. That's your job if you become a parent. That's the things that you're gonna carry on to you when you go to work. Okay? I can't tell you how many fights we had. I don't want to go to Mass. I'm not going to Mass. I don't want to go. You're going to Mass. We're loading up. 6 kids, were we ever late? You bet we were, okay? I can tell you stories that we can make a movie out of, all right? But we went to Mass. Every Sunday, we went to Mass. If we were lucky, we go out to brunch, right, Whitney? And everybody behaved. So you went to Mass, made sure your kids got all their sacraments, right? And you demonstrated the values that you wanted them to have. You know, you wonder, and believe me, we've had trials and tribulations in our family. Praise the Lord. Christ got involved a lot of times and helped us. And you wonder, all this effort that you're putting forward, are they really learning anything? Are they really seeing anything? Are you really going to make a difference? I can tell you it's latent, and it's like a corpse sitting up. All of a sudden, oh my Lord, you know, these kids listen to me. I have a daughter that just graduated from law school in Boston. My wife and I are going out to see her sworn in at a bar in Boston on Friday. She called me up. Natalie has got ADD. Natalie's John Medved with long hair. She's got ADD, she's got everything. She is a tough gal. She says she was doing this thing where she was allowed to represent prisoners and go to court for them while she was going to law school. She got this gal, and this gal came from a pretty good family, got involved with drugs, had a child out of wedlock, lost a child, was going to go to jail for stealing and everything else. Natalie took command, told her she's got to go to Mass, gave her a Magnificat, followed her through, helped her get her kid back, and got her a job. Now, I want to tell you something. As a dad, felt pretty good when I heard the story. Felt pretty good. So, how do you take that and how do you project that at work? Let me give you a little history. At one time, I had 12 dealerships. I had 600 employees. Okay? A lot of work. And I just want to tell you that wherever you work, I was talking to Patrick earlier that dated one of my daughters, wherever you work, when you walk in and you're in command, everybody that works for you is watching you. You can believe whatever you want, but they're watching you. And if you go ahead and project a negative image, they're going to say, that guy's successful. And that's the way he acts. So when I go to work, I think to myself, how do I project a Christ-like image? I really try. I really, really do. I probably know 70-75% of my employees by their first names. I don't care if they wash cars. I don't care what they do. I care about them. I get my car washed every day, and I don't do it because I need it. I do it because I drop it in the service department, talk to the guys that wash them, talk to the technicians on the way up, and I see everybody, and they know that I care about them. Okay? I go to Mass usually at 5:15 on a Saturday, because Saturday's a big day, and everybody knows the boss is leaving for 5:15 Mass. And the reason I do it is not because I'm pompous. I want them to know that the guy that's successful has Christ in his life. Just before the crash, I had a nephew tell me something. He said, Uncle John, you're unbelievably successful. He says, God didn't just put you here to sell a lot of cars. He's going to ask something of you someday. Well, you know, I'm a good dad, I think. And I'm pretty good to my employees, and I do this, and I try to project this. I had something happen to me 2 years ago that, I don't know any other way to put it, but it was divine intervention in my life. Whitney and her little sister Alex, some people know him, went to Mullen with him, came home one night and they said, Dad, we met this priest. He's from Lebanon. He had to be your spiritual director. I said, what are you talking about? You know, what are you talking about? He says, he speaks broken English, but he says, maybe he'll have a cappuccino with you. So I met this priest somewhere, I forget the name of the lake, it's where Edgewater is, the little town there, Sloan's Lake. And we're in this little diner having breakfast. And he said, God sent you to me. I said, what are you talking about? I said, my daughters told me I'm supposed to meet you, my spiritual. He says, no. He says, God sent me to you to me. I don't know what it was about. So about 8 months later, I was lobbying for our dealer association in Washington, D.C. Father Andre calls me. He says, where are you? I said, I'm in Washington, D.C. He says, so am I. I said, what are you doing here? He says, there's a conference of over 300 clerics from the Middle East. Christians are being butchered. We're here. The hotel's being swept for bombs every 3 hours from ISIS. What legislators do you know? I said, what are you kidding? I said, come on. He says, I said, well, I'm trying to get in to see Congressman Perlmutter, and I got his staffers here, and you know, we're not talking to anybody of any importance. He says, please, get me an appointment. I have the Cardinal from Lebanon. We're here, we need to talk to legislators. I walked out of Perlmutter's office, went around a corner, and ran right into him physically, okay? Now, I'm gonna tell you right now, if I were in Vegas, I'd have bet, right? I mean, how does that happen? You can never see these guys. They hide, okay? I told him what I needed. He says, I can only meet him 7 o'clock tomorrow morning for breakfast. My wife's with me. I said, let me tell him. They said, okay, we'll be there at 7 o'clock. So we meet at this hotel. Congressman Perlmutter shows up. He's got his aide. I'm there with my wife, Debbie. We don't know why we're there. Father Andre's there. Everybody's there at the Cardinal. And they're talking about the problem that Lebanon has. It's being crushed. ISIS is there. People are coming in from Syria. It's crushing the economy. And that's all they need is a free zone and arms. I says, what am I doing here? Arms? A free zone? I'm a car dealer. What am I doing here? What? I mean, you know, something, I got off on the wrong floor. Okay, I don't belong here. Okay? So, we didn't accomplish much with Congressman Perlmutter. Tried 2-3 times. Met with Cory Gardner. Tried, didn't get anywhere. I have a friend of mine, none of you listen to him, I'm sure, because he talks to people that are father's age and mine. His name's Peter Boyles. He's a morning drive disc jockey. He's on 7:10 a.m. And then he does endorsements for me for the last 25 years. I said, Peter, I want you to meet this priest. Now, Peter is an Irish Catholic. He's a recovering alcoholic. He'll tell you that. He was an altar boy. He's not sure whether he believes in God or not. Father Andre and I are working on that. So Peter, myself, and Father Andre this time have lunch. And he goes ahead and Father Andre tells him that we want to save Christianity, that people are being butchered, ta-da, you know all the words, you've all read about it. Peter says, I'll help you. So we put together 3 or 4 meetings. We did one out at Regis. We had a broadcast. And all of a sudden this thing is starting to grow. And more people are getting involved in it. And it's becoming bigger and bigger. And I said, I got to get him on Catholic radio. I got to get him to be a part of the platform for this election. If we can make this part of the platform for one of the parties for the election, we can affect what's happening to the Christians in the Middle East, right? Never got it on any of the platforms. Tried, did this, did that, made phone calls, would meet all the time, but more and more people were getting involved. More and more people were getting involved. We raised some money, we saved some people back there, okay? Donald Trump's camp found out about Father Andre. Found out about it. They got attacked in them. They said, we'd like you to do the invocation out at Jefferson County about 3 or 4 weeks ago. Now I want to tell you, kind of take you back a little bit. Where does God get involved? I got a little bit of dough. I flew Father Andre a couple of times to Lebanon. I flew him to Egypt. I flew him a number of places to be current, to know what's going on there, so he could speak intelligently. I think that was my job. I think that I'm a vessel of Christ. I think that I have to do something in my own little way to try to help. We meet my dealership. We have 10 people there. We have 4 people there. We talk about Matt Tynan, who owns a Nissan store. He's involved. How do we fix this? How can we get their attention? He does the invocation, right? They take him up to Greeley. He does the invocation there. There's about 10,000 people. He gets a phone call the other day and he says, look, he says, he's coming back. He says, can you put some Catholics together to go on stage with Donald Trump? He gave us t-shirts. We were on stage down at the National Western Stock Show. He was asked to do the invocation again. If you remember, there was a threat against Donald Trump's life in Las Vegas. He was there 2-3 hours earlier. Eric Trump texted Father Andre and said, pray for my dad. Pray for my dad. Let me tell you what happened today. Today, Newt Gingrich, anybody know his name? Know about Newt? Received all the documentation and everything on Father Andre, and they're going to meet with Mr. Trump relative to an envoy from the Middle East, for the Middle East, for Christianity. I don't know if it'll work. I don't know if it's going to happen, but I know I've done my job. I know that Christ called me. I know what I was supposed to do, and I feel good about it. If it doesn't go any further, it's in the big guy's hands, okay? So what do? I think you got to always work at projecting a positive image. I think you have to. You're a leader. Standards are everything. They're uncompromisable. Will you ever make a mistake? Will you ever say something you don't want to say? You will. I can assure you that. Maybe you'll make a wrong call in somebody's career someday too, and it'll bother you for a long time. But if you don't have Christ in your life, if you don't have a compass, you're not going anywhere. So in my own little way, I think back, the kid that grew up in the blue-collar neighborhood, the opportunities I've had in life, where I've gone, I've been all over the world, I've been over 65 countries. The Lord draws straight with crooked lines.